talking to the guys with the money, the guys who are doing businesses, the guys who are making things work, who are driving the economy. On Monday we had Tony Cole, the co-founder of Sahara Energy. Yesterday we had Mr. Felicia Phillips, the founder and chairperson of Phillips Consulting and the former chairman of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Today I have another dynamic and amazing gentleman who is a key player in the hospitality industry. But before I go into my guest for today, I want you to watch this video. So please watch this video with me. I'll be right back.
Invested over $140 million. Nigeria's 853 kilometers of stunning Atlantic coastline offers massive potential for growth in the leisure sector, and new developments are springing up along the Lagos coastline. Riding the first wave of investment is Landmark Africa. They've invested over $140 million into building West Africa's first ever city beach, leisure and lifestyle center. Landmark Village has its own international restaurants, 5-star hotel and helipad. Here at Landmark Beach, members pay $150 a year to access leisure activities and 100,000 square kilometers of private beach.
I just kayaked today for the first time. It was very intense, but it's so much fun. But for me, it's laying out and getting a tan. It's like a getaway from the stress and hustle and bustle of Lagos, like the traffic. You come here, you feel like you're in this serene space. So it's just a mini vacation getaway.
Yeah, it's a staycation.
Although it may look like he's on holiday, this is the hardest working man on the beach, Paul Onwuanibe, CEO of Landmark Africa.
What is it that's contributing to the growth of the leisure sector in Nigeria? Why are we seeing more people enjoying themselves in their spare time?
3 prime reasons. One is just this new age of social media. And people are very aspirational in this part of the world. A lot of people come and try to relive a lifestyle they see on TV or in social media. The second is disposable income. There's a whole new generation of people that have more disposable income. So even in the downturn, they will focus on leisure. The third is just the natural barriers that are being broken down between sort of live, work, and play. So people now understand that it's important to spend a good portion of your time, having leisure and entertainment.
And how important is it for Nigeria and Nigeria's economy to have a development such as this in Lagos?
First and foremost, it enables people to enjoy themselves and spend their money at home. So it reverses that whole capital flight. You come down here, you're seconds from your door. You have everything that you could have outside. So that's one of the main reasons we set this up, just to give us a chance to enjoy the things that many people who don't have the opportunity to go abroad can enjoy in here.
As the sun sets on this beautiful Lagos beach, Nigeria's new breed of pioneering leisure entrepreneurs can look forward to many more sunny days ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Paul Onwuanibe, the founder CEO of the Landmark Africa Group. Good to see you. How you doing tonight?
Great to see you too. Thank you. Very well. And I apologize for coming formally. I had earlier.
No, it's okay. It's okay. That was the video was courtesy of the BBC. I have another video I want to, before we get into the conversation, I have another video I want to show our viewers, and then we can come back into the conversation. Everyone, please watch this with me. This is another video from the Landmark that I enjoy.
On the last episode, we met Africa's city builders.
What started this dream was when I set up this business in London, almost 20 years ago now. After about 5-6 years of bashing about in Europe, I decided to go to Africa, a destination and an area that I know very well.
we found out the secrets to success in Cape Town's property scene.
So, Mr. Onwuanibe, how did you do it? How did you do it? How did you start? What inspired you to come back home?
Well, first of all, firstly, I'd like to thank you for being creative at the time when most of the world's in full throttle panic. Yeah, so I'm honored to be invited to share some of my thoughts on Nigeria, Landmark, and myself, of course.
Thank you.
How did I start? I mean, it's a long journey. So maybe I'll start the journey from the beginning. About 20 years ago, or just over 20 years ago, I worked for an entrepreneur, and over time I realized that entrepreneurs are not.
I'm not sure if the network is connecting well. I don't know if it's from my side or your side.
Gosh, I hope it's not my side. I can hear you.
Yeah, I seem to be losing some of your.
Oh wow, are you still losing me?
I think it's from my side. Please keep speaking.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So I hope it's not from my side. I have all the bars on my internet here, but I'm at home. You never know. Maybe one of the children are watching a video online. Can you still hear me?
Absolutely. I think it's fine. I'm watching it live on YouTube now, and it's coming out well. So please go ahead. Keep speaking.
All right. Fantastic. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So this journey started about 20 years ago. Let's say even more than that, 25 years ago. I had the pleasure to work for a guy called Mark Dixon. And he was the founder of Regis. I mean, this guy was an entrepreneur through and through. He rolled the dice every single day and without knowing what numbers will come up. And some of the bets he made were big bets. But I tell you, one thing that I found that's common in entrepreneurs is just pure self-belief and passion. They're prepared to get into the trenches and come out of those trenches. They're prepared to do anything that it takes within the legal limits and within sort of moral limits to ensure that their idea comes to fruition. They say that many people have good ideas, but very few people have the ability to execute on these ideas. So I worked with him, and at the very beginning, there were 7 of us in the company, and he had this idea to enable businesses to basically convert the office market into the hotel market. So the idea was serviced offices. It was the genesis of serviced offices in the early 90s. So he provided all the furniture, leased the space, and got people in, and all they had to do was come with their briefcases and work. And it grew from one city in London to 262 cities around the world. I followed that journey over a 7-year period.
Wow.
He started this business with 200,000 euros at the time. And when I was leaving, he floated it on the NASDAQ for $1.4 billion. So in 7 years, he made an absolute bundle. Now, at the time, we were leaving. I thought to myself, maybe I should go and try my hand at this. So he supported me. I started this business, a similar business, but not exactly the same. And I wanted to sort of target the businessmen that actually didn't have bang for buck. They didn't have the money to open up big offices in big places. So it was all about conferencing, video conferencing, secretarial support, and a little bit of real estate. And after a year or two, it was really, really tough. And most people advised me to go back and get a day job. And I thought, you know what, it's not for me. And then we struggled along. And I opened up in London and a few other European cities, I think six of them, Frankfurt, Prague, Madrid, Brussels. Anyway, and as you know, it's amazing now that we talk about, one of the key things about the pandemic is this Black Lives Matter issue, right? And I basically had a bloody nose in most of these cities. But a few years later, I thought to myself, well, where do I know the most? And I thought, well, I know Africa, and I know Nigeria. And I thought, but I didn't want a Nigeria business. I want an Africa business. So I thought, all right, you know what? We'll set 4 corners back.
A global business.
Yeah. So I rolled the dice, packed my bags, and came back to Nigeria. We set up in Lagos for the west of Africa, Nairobi for the east, Johannesburg for the south, and at the time it was Cairo for the north. And then we started this business, and it became immediately apparent that Africa was yearning for something like this that could just make life easier for people to start business. So we did actually quite well. I used a lot of contacts I had with international organizations that came to use our facilities. But there were some shortcomings. more in the west of Africa than in the south. And the main shortcomings came from property, came from governments, came from property, and came from so as we know in Africa at the time, and we're now talking early 2000s, mid 2000s. First of all, the governments were not that supportive. The property rules and regulations were not clear and transparent. There was very little. There was very little of an enabling environment, and buildings were not subject to any sort of real international standards. So leasing other people's buildings and leasing those out as service offices just simply was tough. So we realized that to play in this ground, we had to create our own buildings. And one of the things that my old boss say to me, said, find out where the people are going and get there first. So that was my motto at the time. And I thought, okay, you know what, I've got to figure out which are the sort of big cities in Africa. And Lagos, Nairobi, Joburg, and Cairo was 80% of Africa's GDP. So that's where people are going. Now we had to figure out where in those cities. And it occurred to me that Africa has, different African cities have similar problems. Security, infrastructure, power, loads of people, everything very dispersed. So a lot of people you don't want to work, live, and play in different places. So I thought to myself, we should start looking to creating destinations. And that was basically the birth of Landmark Africa as you see it today. And that's a story in a nutshell. I think a bit more about that later. But one of the things I did say today, I'll let you take the lead on the questions anyway. So I didn't ask myself a question and answer it.
So there are a few things I wanted to find out. First was, so there's some for the large scale business and there's some for the small scale business. So I think let me start from here. You came from the UK, a different business culture, a different environment where things move really faster, things move in a different way to what we have here, where licensing can be an issue, getting a permit can be dramatic. What are the 10 core business lessons that you've learned from doing business in Nigeria or in Africa that every entrepreneur or business owner that wants to do it big or do it well here must be aware of?
Oh, well. So let me start from the lack of the non-obvious. So one thing you need is passion. If you don't have the passion, you will give up because the pains are plenty. So one thing you must have is passion. Another thing you must have is belief. You must believe in what you're doing and believe in yourself, believe in the right way. So I always say to people, there are a lot of positive people in the world and there are a lot of negative people in the world. And it's very important to get rid of the negative people around you because that's really what grinds away at belief. I think positivity is the one thing that's built the world and it's built the Western nation. And it's probably the best results in education as well. So that's the obvious. But the obvious things that you would need, and I think anybody who's been to a place like Nigeria and Africa will have the same view. So you need finance. You need to understand how to sort finance, how to convince people that they're into money. Because the bottom line, investors only invest if they get return. So that's important. The second is that you need good partners. They always, you always say many people avoid partnerships because they're worried about, getting into fights or misunderstandings and stuff. I always say it's the choice of partner that matters. If you choose a good partner, you will do very well. If you choose a bad partner, then you will suffer for it. So I've forgotten the book, but they say, people first. First who, then what. Right, so you get the right people on board, either working with you or working for you, and then I would say the third thing is how do you navigate the infrastructure deficits in a place like Nigeria. I'm hearing myself.
Oh, sorry. Yes, so please go ahead.
Thanks. So one of the issues, how do you navigate the infrastructure deficit? Because in starting especially a real estate business or anything that you need to build anything, you realize that there's so many things that are missing. There's no sewage system. There are very few roads, no water system. There's no security system that secures your own goods. So there are many things you have. There's no power. So there are many things you have to provide yourself, and how you towards doing it in the most cost-effective way is very important. And then the last thing, as we all know, is something about developing nations in general, Nigeria in particular, is it's very hard to do any business without having some form of government relationship. You need to figure out how you work your relationship with the government, hold on to your ethics, provide the things that benefit the government, and build a rapport with the government so they can support you and you can support them in their. And that's probably the most difficult part of it, because there are many things that apparent to the naked eye that you feel are working against you, and it's very hard not to lose your temper. But as I said at the beginning, empathy is it's a very important virtue. And if you find some empathy, if you understand how governments work and governments understand what your benefits are, then somewhere along the line you can find some magic formula to make sure you can progress. I've lost you, Dayo.
I'm here. Can you see me? Yeah.
I can see you. Yeah.
I think I'm still here.
Okay.
I'm trying to. The other line is really giving me a lot of challenge. So.
Okay.
I'm trying to connect with another gadget.
Okay.
Okay. Can you? Okay. I think we're both together now.
We're both together. These are the challenges. The challenges in our dear country.
Can you hear me clearly now?
I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me clearly? Yes, I can hear you. So another thing I wanted to talk about is, so dealing with all this infrastructure deficit, how do you still maintain profitability despite this infrastructure deficit? How do you navigate that, in balancing profitability? How challenging is the infrastructure deficit on earning, on profit, on sustainability?
That is a great question. When I went to business school, the very first lesson I was taught in business school is that, especially the entrepreneurship class, is whatever you do as a business, there are three sets of people that own the business. Yeah. One is yours, and technically, those three sets of people should take an equal share. Right? So 33.3% of your business basically should go to the government in terms of taxes and charges. Yes. 33% of your business goes to your investors. Yes. Of which hopefully you're a part of, right? And 33% of your business goes to your financiers, the people who actually take the risk on the loans. And that's a formula that works in the Western world. And yes, sometimes, okay, it's 27% here or 35%. When you come into an environment like ours, it's very easy to spend 60 to 80% of your income, yes, creating your business, paying it out to government. So I'll give you an example. In trying to create a destination or build a building, you would need to buy the land, obviously. You would need to register and title that land, and that cost could quite easily range from anything between 10 and 15%. And if you do it inefficiently, it could be higher. And that includes all the surveys and things like that. So before you put a stone in the ground, you've paid quite a lot in just regularizing your title, assuming you can get there. Mm-hmm. Then you have to get a permission for whatever you build on the site. And to get that building permit itself is not always, some states are better than others, and some governments are better than others. So I'll say that in all fairness. And Lagos State was particularly difficult a long time ago. It has improved tremendously. There are still, you know what they say, the biggest room in the world is the room called improvement. Yes. So there's still a long way to go, but I think it's a lot better. But the permitting situation was quite a difficult situation. The first building we put up in Lagos, it took us 3 years to get the permit. and it costs an absolute fortune as well. We've probably spent the best part of 300 million naira literally on permitting fees. But now that sounds like a lot, but in the overall scheme of things, we spent the best part of we spent the best part of 30 billion naira putting up infrastructure that we have at Landmark Village, and so 300 million naira is not that much, but we're still halfway through. But it does take time to do it. Not everyone's on the same page. In terms of just how do you plan a building, and you know what you have in mind. It needs to be efficient in terms of life cycle. It needs to be reasonably cost effective to build it. It needs to look pretty, and it needs to conform with the regulations. And that mix of things is very hard to achieve.
And another challenge that also happens is in terms of raising equity and raising finances. How do organizations, what should business owners and entrepreneurs be doing to be able to attract finance and investment? You've attracted so much money. I know you got 20 million naira dollars from Vantage Capital. You keep getting a lot of investment from different stakeholders. What do businesses need to put in place to do to be able to attract investment?
Well, simple thing, three things. Yeah. One, you have to have the people. So you have to have the right people in your business. So whether you're partners or hired, because everything stems from the quality of the people and the thinking and the thought process. And people who are capable of critical thought, people who understand how to solve problems, people who are not negative, and people who know how to take things forward, who know how to deliver. So that's the first thing. Once you have the people, the next thing you have to do is document your plan. You need to understand exactly what it is you want to do. You need to look at the boundaries of that. You need to understand the supply chain. You need to document it. Many people call it a business plan. You can call it anything you like, but it needs to go onto paper in a way that someone who doesn't know you understands it. And then the third thing is you need to be able to contact and connect with people. To introduce you to potential finances. You need to
connect with people.
Yes, you need to understand what is good for your business. Is it equity? Is it debt? Is it mezz finance? So you must understand exactly how you structure your finances. And a lot of businesses that at one stage do quite well can do quite poorly if things go wrong. So we've seen our challenges, by the way. We've poured a lot of money into what we've tried to create, and apart from the infrastructure challenges or the regulatory environment challenges, we've seen the challenges with the dollar naira, because when you're building real estate, 70-80% of the real estate is abroad. Yes, it's imported. 70-80% of what you use to build is actually imported. It's you use dollars to buy it. Quite often, if you're building on large scale, you're borrowing the money in foreign exchange. And when we started borrowing our monies in foreign exchange, the naira dollar rate of 120 to 1. Today, it's anything between 400 and 500. So that just tells you how things move, but your income can't change that much. So it's tough. It's tough. It's tough, but it's something that's doable. It's just a matter of
what
Sorry, Dayo. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, complete your statement. No, you were saying something. You were saying something that is doable, but it's tough.
Yes, it's
doable. I was going to go into focus. What role does focus play? What role does focus play in your business success? So you started with one area, you're diversifying, but it looks like most of your diversification is still in allied businesses. What role does focus play in your business success, and how should entrepreneurs diversify and at the same time balance on focus?
Yeah. So first of all, I've got to say that I'm one that doesn't really believe in huge diversification. I believe in generic diversification. So as time goes along, you adapt to the times, you adapt to the country you're in, you adapt to the technology. But I'm not one that would start a paper factory today and then start trading oil and then build real estate. I believe in focusing on one thing and doing it. So I'm one of those people that says, you know, many people say put your eggs in, you know, in different baskets to reduce your risk. I say put all your eggs in one basket, but watch that basket carefully. So all my life, I've been on real estate, and everything I ever invest in or ever give thought to or put energy into is Landmark. I don't look outside that box at any point in time, and Landmark doesn't look outside the real estate platform box. What we are destination creators. So we believe in the business leisure lifestyle. So a lot of our revenue comes as an offshoot of real estate, maybe not directly from real estate, but real estate is the platform that actually produces it. So I think focus is huge. Next to passion, courage, and, you know, next to passion, courage, and just pure wisdom, focus, I would say, stands side by side with those. I think it's extremely important to
Fantastic.
Stay focused. To understand your market as well, you have to understand the country, you have to understand the market, you have to understand the supply side and the demand side, and most of all, you must understand your business and where you're going. But I always say, and people who work with me say the same thing, you always have the right to change your mind. Never be afraid because you've made a decision, that decision, you have to go all the way. You must always look at the options. You must always look at the world, the way the world is. You must always look at the strategy and the tactics and say, you know what, I was doing it this way before, but allow yourself to try other things. Don't wed and bury yourself in the hole of, this is what I wrote down in my business plan first, so that's the way I'm going to do it.
What are your views on taking risks in business? What kind of risk have you taken in your business journey? How were they? What were the good ones? What were the bad ones? And what were the lessons that you've learned about taking risks?
Well, that's a wide question. So, I mean, risk taking is part of business. If you're not ready to take risks, get a job and get someone to pay your salary. It's really as simple as that. Everything about business is about risk. So, you know, and people cook risk. Risk is not something to be afraid of. It's just something to understand and be aware of. It's like driving a car. You take a risk every single turning you take. Get into a dead end, you could get into a ditch, your car could break down, you could go the wrong way, but you continue. But because you want to get to a destination, you keep on driving, right? And business is the same. And when I look at the span of business, and you know, it's a long time, so I can't all the risks. But if I could think of some of the big risks, so coming into Africa was a big risk because I did my secondary school education in Africa, and my early secondary school education. And a bit of my university education and left. So I'd spent the bulk of my time abroad. And coming back into Africa, I had a very poor understanding of Africa. So I thought that was a huge risk. The second risk is when you choose your partners, because you never really know what synergies you can derive from choosing partnerships. So from the partnerships, that was a risk. The countries we chose to go to, we walked into countries that I hadn't known, just, you know, whether it was Kenya, South Africa, Ghana, Libya. You know, you go into these countries, you try to examine the countries, you look at the political framework, you look at the financial framework, you look at the geography, you make a lot of guesses, and you choose a spot and you say, I'm going to buy a piece of land here. It could go wrong, it could go right. You've got the risk of the community. Wherever you just station your business, a whole load of risks, because you never really know how enabling the community will be. So you could quite easily be in a place where your roads are bad, nobody really cares about your security, nobody cares about how your business goes, and you know, it's a huge risk. If you've invested, you know, tens of millions of naira or hundreds of millions of naira somewhere, then you are literally in risk country. So there's that. In terms of other risks and smaller risks, you know, the risk of advertising and trying to get your markets. So, you know, you have to decide who your clients are, and then you've got to say, where are they? Let me find out where they are. Let me talk to them. And it's not, you could spend a lot of money not finding the right people. So that's always a risk. When I started my business, that was my biggest risk. I raised a £50,000 loan in the UK to start the business, and I spent probably 3/4 of it advertising in the wrong places. The risk of hiring people.
Wow.
Yeah, the risk of hiring people is huge, because if you get the wrong people in your
No, sorry, please tell us the story about advertising in the wrong place. I think it's something that we can learn from. Can you dig deeper into the whole, the whole experience?
yeah. So when I say advertising in the wrong place, so if you can imagine
Can you tell us more about
we're talking 20 years ago now. So a lot of the advertising was print media, television, radio. There was, the internet was barely alive then. There's not a lot of digital advertisers. There's no such thing as Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, no such thing as LinkedIn. So it was a different world then. So you had to choose what newspapers to advertise in. You had to choose what sort of sessions to go to and put your advertising up. You had to choose what TV stations to go on to if you could afford a radio station. So I just chose the wrong ones. I thought my client was the yuppie in the suits, and yuppie was the term used for young, probably mobile people, people who literally had great cars, lived in great places, well educated, and were looking for services. So that was my client. So I advertised in places that client went. So I advertised a lot in the Financial Times, advertised on Bloomberg. I did a lot of advertising on some other TV stations. And,
wow.
And they were all very expensive. One thing it did do for me, though, it taught me that all that glitters is not gold, first of all. But it also taught me that the difference between direct advertising and direct advertising. So to put that into perspective, direct advertising is when you advertise and you expect someone to phone you. So you say, I have this house for rent or for sale. My phone number is 0800000. Call me if you want to buy it. And someone sees the advert and calls you, right? Indirect advertising is literally relationship advertising. So indirect advertising is where you're just literally looking for people to know that you exist, and you want them to tell other people, and you want to build your credibility in the marketplace. And I found out that indirect advertising is a lot more important, a lot more beneficial than direct advertising. Because if you chase direct advertising and you don't hit your market, your money is gone. The thing about indirect advertising is almost like carpet bombing. You're telling a whole set of people the best possible story you can tell, and they're bound to tell other people. And when it's time to call you, they'll remember. If they don't remember your name, they remember your number. If they don't remember your number, they remember your name, which is why it's very important to choose an easy name in a business. Because if you choose the wrong name, people just simply don't remember it. So they remember, oh, there's this service, great service, it could do X, Y, Z. But the name was like my surname is Onwuanibe. If I had named my business Onwuanibe, I could probably comfortably say that 80% of my clients that have supported me over the last 20 years probably wouldn't have found me, because they wouldn't have remembered the name. Am I still with you, Dayo?
Thank you so much. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can, I think. Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I keep having some network challenges tonight. I think it's raining in my area tonight, so I'm having a bit of a network challenge. What role has grit and tenacity played in your business success?
What role did you say greed and tenacity? Grit.
Tenacity and grit.
And
yes, grit and tenacity.
Well, everything, at this conversation.
GRIT.
Yes. So at the top of this conversation, I started with passion. If you ask me what is the most important ingredient for success in a business, I would tell you straight up, without thinking, it's passion. And passion means many things. It's about grit. It's about tenacity. It's about the ability to work hard. It's about strength. It's about the pursuit of excellence. It's about drive. It's about staying power. The good old-fashioned things. So it's huge, because you will come across a lot of challenges. And unless you unwrap those challenges and realize that not every challenge is a major obstacle, sometimes it's just God's way of telling you, I'm not going to give it to you easy. So you have to learn how to unwrap your challenges. You have to learn how to adapt to those challenges, and you have to learn how to turn challenges into opportunities. So I would say it's all about grit, and it's all about tenacity. It's all about courage. Courage is a strange word to use in business, but it's important. It's a very important word, and people underestimate how much courage is required. Because you dive in with 2 feet. You have no control over the marketplace. You have no control over the people who finance you. You have no control over whether anybody even wants your service. But what you do have control over is your own idea and how you execute it. So I always say, when you're executing your idea, execute excellence in the choice. Execute it in the best possible way so you can raise the hurdle for competition.
So you have fantastic people working with you at the Landmark Group. You have Yewande, you have Tega, you have a lot of exceptional people working with you. How do you attract and retain quality people on your team?
Well, you know more about my team than I do. I didn't realize you'd spoken to all these people. How do we go about retaining quality people? So first of all, we try to get the best people. And if we find out we've made a mistake, we try to cut it out very early. So how you hire is extremely important. I always say in sort of our strategy meetings in the office is the front door is not the most important door to watch in a business. It's the back door. The people who come in, unless you have a crystal ball or a mind reading function, you can't really determine how good people are. But what you've got to watch out for is try to put good people in and allow the bad people to leave. And that's probably one of the most difficult things to suss out. But I would say that it's important to try to treat people well. I mean, these are very tough times we're going through. A lot of people have been laid off. A lot of people don't have jobs. A lot of people have serious welfare and social issues. And it's at times like this, I think organizations have to stand up and be counted, not just from a financial point of view, but also from a social point of view. It's important to interact. It's important to communicate. It's important to have live sessions and engage with your people. Some people obviously appreciate it more than others, but some people really have real bread and butter issues. So it's important to also show them the link between the success of the business and their own personal success. And because it's not all immediate, it's sometimes a very hard sell, because a lot of maturity is required. And I know that when I was in my 20s, and I worked for people, it wasn't immediately apparent to me that every day I went to work, I was actually working for myself. I just thought I was working for someone else. So I try to get away with it. But it's important to try to speak to people and to get people to grow up very quickly and benefit from the experience you've already gone through, so they don't make the same mistakes you've made. And I always say that if you're working for a company, you're working for yourself. So what you put into it is what you get out of it, by and large.
Hospitality business, and it's really affected by COVID. No flights, no tourism, no holiday, and all of that. What do you think is the way forward for the hospitality industry post-COVID?
I mean, this is a crazy thing. So I want to put some things into context for you first. So we're in the business, leisure, and lifestyle business. We're in the business of creating destinations. And to put this in perspective, 6 months ago or 7 months ago in December, we received an award, I think 2 in the last 3 years, as the most visited destination on the West African coast. 6 months ago in December, we had 300,000 visitors to Landmark. Last month in June, we had less than 600 visitors. Our currency at Landmark is footfall, is people, right? And so we hope people come and they spend their money, and not all the money comes to us, it goes to a lot of our clients. But our currency is footfall. So what this pandemic has done is, apart from the health crisis, it's created a huge economic crisis as well. We have costs in excess of 5 million naira every single day, with no income at all. So these are extremely tough times. Now, in terms of hospitality, and I put this into perspective because there are 2 things I'm trying to say here. One is businesses like ours would need support to survive. And when I say support, it would need the private sector working with the government to understand that businesses like this, A, can't fail, B, they have to progress, and they have to retain their employees, keep people economically active, and provide a service. The second part of that process is, what do businesses like this do for the economy? From a hospitality point of view, it does a number of things. It brings in foreign exchange. It makes your country more visited. So it brings in footfall. The very thing that we want in our business is what the government should want in its economy. It's people coming into the city or the country or an area and basically spending their money. Because if people do come in, they're creating an economic cycle. They're eating, they're drinking, they're sleeping, they make friends, and sometimes they grow a passion for the area and actually stay. So that economic cycle in itself is huge. The other great thing about hospitality is the foreign exchange angle. What it basically does, it brings in foreign exchange, but it also keeps our domestic currency sort of changing hands as well. And it changes hands at an extremely low level. So these are not huge contracts. These are people spending, 1,000 naira, 500 naira, 5,000 naira. So it's exchanging hands at a very good level, and it keeps the economy going. And the third thing it does is beautification. It just provides what should I say, a lot more investment, if you like, in an area. So the area basically grows, yes, because people become familiar with it. I mean, someone once said to me a long time ago, about 15 years ago, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but the person says, Oyibos only invest where they can go on holidays. And that was when I was trying to come into Nigeria and said, look, Nigeria on holidays, it's too difficult. You can't even get past the airport. But it's so true. And just having traveled the world, a lot of people invest after they go on holidays somewhere. And if you don't have a place where you can drink, relax in a secure environment, then you think, well, why should I do a business here? Or why should I start a business here? So I think the hospitality industry is an important industry. It's like the front room in your house. It's important to have a room that visitors can come, relax, and enjoy themselves. And they want to come back again, and they feel comfortable. And I think that's important. But there are a number of things that are required for the hospitality industry to thrive. It needs infrastructure, roads, access. It needs beautification. It needs a traffic solution. People are not prepared to spend 2 hours to go somewhere and spend 20 minutes. It simply doesn't work, right? It also needs a little bit more relaxation on the regulatory framework. So I think it's important that the people who are there to create policy and make decisions on how businesses play in this environment need to look at all sides of it, need to see the benefit of what businesses do, apart from the employment, apart from helping the community, apart from the tax receipts. Just providing alternatives in a country is a big play on its own. So the hospitality industry is one of those industries that you just can't. And then from an employment point of view, it employs a lot of people. We have over 1,200 people working at Landmark. And in building it, every square meter of real estate you build employs 3 people. So when we say we've built 130,000 square meters of real estate, it means in that time, we've employed almost 400,000 people. So the more real estate you can provide, the more people get employed, and the more the economy.
The more jobs you can create.
More jobs you can create. And creation of jobs is not jobs alone. It just increases the number of economically active people in a space. So when you come to times like this, that's what keeps countries alive. I'm in London at the moment, and here, what the government has done, just from a perspective, they've literally gone to source. They've paid everybody's salary that earns under £3,000, 80% of their salaries. Everybody. And the reason why is simple. Is because they want them to be economically active. Right? There's no point in them being broke, because they're making a bet that each person who has money is going to spend that money. They're not going to just put it in and keep it. So you have to keep the economy and
an account sleeping.
No, absolutely.
How do you deal with competition? You find competitors who are also trying to do the same. How do you deal with competition?
Oh, well, we love competition because competition is not a bad thing. It's actually a great thing. And the reason is simple, is because what it does in an industry, it just makes an industry a lot more desirable. It gives it a lot more attention, and it makes it a lot more public. So if you have competition, it divides your advertising dollars. Right? If you're spending $1 before and you have 3 competitors, you only need to spend 30 cents. Right? Now, the second thing about competition is, and I always say this, is just be the best you can. Whatever you do, be the best you can. Never do half measures. Don't say, well, it's just good enough. Manage them. Right? We need to move away from that. Be the best you can. The pursuit of excellence is important. And that's fine. And the reason why is because at the end of the day, competition finds its own level. Right? So people may say, you know what, I want to bat at this level. Others may say, I'm happy to bat here. But whatever you do, just do it very well. So I love competition. I think competition is great. All my competitors are my friends. And if this was a show where I could call people, I'll call 2, 3, 4 of my competitors, different facets of our business, and they'll tell you that we speak every day. We exchange ideas. I try to help, and they've helped me. But we bat across a number of industries because we've got retail, we've got restaurants, food and beverage, we have the hospitality, the beach, we have the convention center, and we have office, commercial offices. So we have a number of things, and we're competing with different businesses in different sectors that we provide.
What should government be doing to support the players in your industry?
So,
in particular, in this season.
Well, in this season. So I would say, I think I said at the beginning of this conversation, what we're going through this season, because this season is the elephant in the room, by the way, right? And what do we call this season? So usually people say, do you know what a black swan event is? So a black swan event is an event that's extremely rare, and people panic when it happens. So the World War would have been a black swan event. September 11th would have been a black swan event. Even the internet, yeah, but it changes the landscape. Katrina was a black swan for New Orleans or for that area. But the damage of a black swan event cannot be told during the event. It comes out, it emerges 6 to 12 months afterwards, right? Now, what good governments do, and good leaders, both in the private and government sector, is they don't look at what's happening today. They look, how can I mitigate against the pressures of tomorrow? And there are 3 things you have to do during a black swan event. The first thing is supply chain, right? You have to ensure that the supply chain is still active. Business can still trade to a large extent, right? And the economy is still active. The second thing you have to do is you have to take care of people, their welfare. They have to have access to services, or education or utilities. But you have to make sure that you can have a revolving finance. And the third thing is you must take care of businesses. Businesses must survive because they employ the people. And these people have to be economically active. So those 3 things alone, right? And look around the world, the governments have had the bank to be able to do this, right? Will be able in a way lessen the effects of after the storm. So I think if you ask me what governments should do, I think spend on infrastructure, because the money will go around. Use this opportunity to improve the environment. Help people, make sure the palliative measures given out to people to ensure that people can eat, people can go to hospital, people can still get educated, and people have access to basic services. Yes, extremely important. And the third thing is safety and security. You have to keep people secure and keep people informed. Communication during a time like this is huge. It's everything you say it's important, because at a time like this, there's so much that goes on in social media that's not true. But that noise only finds space because there's a gap, because nobody is actually telling people what's going on. And so I would like to see, look, I don't have the responsibility of managing a city, a state, a country, or a region. I just have the responsibility of trying to keep Landmark afloat. But if I had a larger responsibility, my biggest focus would be the 3 things I've said: supply chain, businesses, and the welfare of the people.
What is your greatest failure and lessons that you learned from it?
Well, so what's my greatest failure? Gosh, I've millions of failures. So to figure out which is the greatest is a tough one. But let me. So I talked about the advertising. I thought that was a pity. But one of my biggest failures or regrets, and I won't call it a failure, but I would, I told you I worked for a guy called Mark Dixon, and when I started working for him, we worked from his dining room table. After about a year of working with him, he couldn't pay our salaries. There were 7 of us that worked with him. He couldn't pay our salaries because he didn't have the money. The business hadn't blossomed to the point. So he offered us shares in the company, right? And he basically says, I'll give 7 of you 5% of the company if you forego 6 months' salary, right? Basically, you forgo a year's salary, so I'll pay you half your salary. There were 7 of us, so that was 35% of the company he was prepared to give out. Of the 7 of us, 4 people took his offer, and 3 of us didn't. I was one of the 3 people that didn't. And I didn't take the offer for a number of reasons. First, I was immature to some extent. But second, I had literally just gotten married. I had little kids. I had real bread and butter issues. I had a mortgage to pay and a family to feed. So I didn't know how I could do that. But when I look back, it's very easy. And that's why I say business is about courage, because it's very easy to make decisions when you think there's risk. But if someone says to you, I will definitely give you 1 million naira tomorrow if you give me 100 naira today, you would do it, right? But if someone says, I may give you 1 million naira tomorrow if you give me 100 naira today, you just tell them to go away. So I didn't take the risk, and I found reasons, and we're human beings, so we find reasons why we don't do things. But I worked as hard as I could, and I worked for him. As I said, 7 years later, this company floated for $1.4 billion, right? Each of those guys that took that deal, 6 months of not being paid, cashed in $55 million each, right? I stood on the podium with them, celebrating, and we shook hands. But these guys I was shaking hands with had just cashed with $5 million. I got a handshake for all the work I had done, and I was the head of the property and logistics team at the time. So a lot of the work, late nights, early mornings. I flew to over 60 countries. We used to sleep on the plane. I mean, it was crazy stuff. That 7 years of my life was the busiest 7 years of my life. I worked like an animal for this guy, and and I no regrets, and I was extremely pleased because everything I know I learned from there. And so I would say the failure there was just the failure to grow up quickly, to anticipate, and to be a lot more critical in my thought and analysis than I was. I looked for the negatives. I looked for the excuses. Oh, but I've got a family to feed and a mortgage to pay, rather than, well, how do I manage my family and manage my house situation, and how do I get this company from good to great, and make sure that it does well and probably do well at the back end. So that spurred me on. As I said, I left, and to be fair, my boss, he gave me £500,000, which was a hell of a lot of money at that time. And then that's what helped me start my business. I lost it all, by the way, right? Which comes to the second failure.
Wow.
Yes, yeah. I lost it because I invested in a lot of things that just didn't work. And that's okay.
So that was what I was talking about, focus. So
Yeah.
you invested in a lot of money. How do other people avoid that? There's so many opportunities, so many nice things to do. People say this is the next thing raining. Maybe cable cars will be good. There are too many ideas. So from those failures, what would you never do again?
I would never, I said it earlier, I would never look outside Landmark, and I'll never do anything that's not property. I won't do anything that I don't understand. And I think that's the biggest lesson you can ever learn. Don't ever do anything. Don't invest your money in anything that you do not understand, irrespective of how people convince you. I tell you that every week I probably get, without exaggerating, I probably get 3 to 4 offers for some oil and gas trade, or some telecoms trade, or some IT thing, and I just say, look, I don't understand it. I don't know it. I'm in my box, right? And my box is this box called Landmark, and everything I put all my eggs here, and I watch this basket carefully. I watch this box carefully. So I would say, the first thing, don't invest in things you don't understand. Second thing, don't invest in anything you don't have passion for, right? And third,
so this is the challenge I also have. While we also focus, God forbid, understanding how Africa works,
and you know that doing one business, so you put everything into Landmark. Most of your big investment now, what over maybe 1, maybe 5, maybe 10 billion, is on the same axis in Oniru. Most of your energy, your investment over the last 5 years in Nigeria is in that same axis. So if for God forbid any reason there was any challenge in that area, does that mean that the investment in that place, God forbid, there was a war, there was something, and there were bombings or whatever it was, God forbid. So is that also not risky to put all the eggs in one basket?
It is, but you die fighting. It's like living in a house. I mean, you don't sleep in a house one day and then go to sleep in another house the other day because you're afraid something will happen to this house. At the end of the day, right, we put everything in one place and we watch it carefully. We watch the community carefully. We watch the infrastructure carefully. We lobby the government carefully. We do everything to make sure that we're lucky. The harder we work, the luckier we get, right? Now, if the worst comes to the worst, I mean, it happens. But remember when we all came into the world, we came in with nothing, right? And when we leave with nothing. So it's what we make in the time between life and death. And if you lose everything, you start again. Because when you came here, you came with nothing, right? But you do everything possible not to, and you die with it. And when I say you die with it, it means you do everything to make sure you guard your investment, you grow that investment, and you make sure you improve other people. I always say it's very important. If anything you want in life, make sure you help others achieve it first, right? Because if you help people achieve what they want, they will help you achieve what you want. So in life, we're in a community. Absolutely. Yes, you can't get into a situation and oppress everybody and be the only one milking something, right? It's simply not viable. At some point, you get cut out, and we've seen it happen time and time and time again. So when I say invest, I'm not just saying invest your money, right? In something. That's why I use the word passion and courage. You're investing in the people in the business. You're investing in the community. You're investing in the business. You're investing in your stakeholders, the customers that are yet to come and the ones who have come. So, you just show that, this actually matters. And it's very, very strange situations where it goes the wrong way. You will face challenges. We face challenges every day. I've got a road that I've been campaigning to get sorted out for the best part of a couple of years, right? We campaign in the community to make sure that the community is intact and is straight and the right things are done. We make sure the regulatory environment is good. We make sure that the people are fine. We make sure people don't steal from us as well. We make sure that we spread the glory. And it's tough, but you've got to, if you focus on it, even though it's tough, at least you have your eyes on the ball. I always say you've got to be in it to win it. Right?
What's your networking 101? Networking 101, because relationship is important for business sustainability.
Yes. So networking 101 is likability. I'd say don't make enemies. Yes. Make sure everybody's a friend and don't take life too seriously. A lot of people quarrel over very minor things and keep quarrels. And I just say, look, nobody is an enemy to me. We may have a misunderstanding. We may not agree. Right. But you won't see me either bad mouthing you or trying to hurt you as a result. I will always try to make sure that we find a way to at least agree to disagree, right? So my basic principle in life is to try to make everybody a friend. Be pleasant. Do to people what you expect people to do to you. And not everybody will reciprocate, but that's life, right? Don't feel bad about it. And if you get hurt, don't feel bad about it. And don't take it out on the next person. Just try your best to be as good as you can all the time.
So let me also break this down a little bit. Let me go back a little bit and break this down. So yes, be likable to everyone. But if I want to begin to play among the big players, before you begin to engage the big players, and when you were living in the United Kingdom, were the kind of relationship that helped you when you were coming back into Nigeria, were they from the people that you had gone to school with? Did you have to come into Nigeria and join some clubs and associations? Like, for example, if you wanted to run for politics in Lagos, you had to, people usually will want to go and sign up with Yoruba Tennis Club, Eco Club, Island Club, Ikoyi Club, and all of that. Is there any kind of, what would I say, routine that you had to go through if you wanted to be able to network at a large scale in the business community in Nigeria?
No, I didn't do that, and I'm a social animal, but I'm not that social. I try to keep my head below the parapet. As a matter of fact, most people don't know me. They know Landmark, but they don't know me. But I would say what I try to do is everybody I meet, I try to leave a memory. And I think if you do that, when you call them the next time, they think they're more likely than not, A, to take the call, and B, to be pleasant. I try to be pleasant. I try to be very helpful as well, and I try to be nice. But I didn't join. I stand today. I'm not a member of the Ikoyi Club. I'm not a member of a Papa Club or a Ikeja Club. I'm not a member of any tennis club.
Or Rotary or Lions Club.
I'm not a member of anything, right? I just make sure I try to influence the environment around me and the people around me. And when I came back into Nigeria, obviously my first port of call were the people I knew when I was a kid. Yeah, right. So some of my closest friends today are the friends I made in secondary school when I was 10 years old, because we lived in England when I came to secondary school in Nigeria. My parents were diplomats, and I was sent to Nigeria to learn the Nigeria thing. So I was sent to boarding school at the age of 10. My brother and I were carted off to Lagos, to Janike, if you know it, Federal Government College Lagos. And I spent 5 years there, and those were some of the best 5 years of my life, because most of my dear friends today are the people I met then. And thankfully, we influenced each other enough to be in contact and to help each other now. And a lot of people who have helped me have been those. Obviously, my first degree was in Nigeria as well. A lot of my partners today are my partners that I went to university with as well. So, I try to keep relationships, and I think they're very important. Relationships are your currency. The more people you know, the richer you are.
Excellent. So I'm going to wrap up my question here, because already 1 hour, and I don't want to overstretch your time. But I want to go back to.
As the time flies when you're happy.
Yeah. So now you talked about, you've been a very reserved person. You're a very quiet person. You don't actually you're social, but also not social. So there are a lot of entrepreneurs who also have that kind of features. They're reserved, but they have to push their business. So how do you maintain your privacy and still ensure that your brand has visibility?
Well, I just make sure the brand. So when people say brand, people think it's a name. Brand is an experience. So if you have a business and you make sure that everybody who interacts with your business has a pleasant experience, that's what brand value is all about. So I just make sure that the people who work with us at Landmark and the people who influence the experience at Landmark, the pursuit of excellence is their destination, is their goal. Because that's what will build the brand. It's not playing tennis in Ikeja Club or squash in Ikoyi Club. That's a different kind of relationship. But I think it's important to just make sure, as I said, be the best you can at all times. Excellence is a choice. Pursue it without regret, without retreat, with so much rigor. And you wouldn't go wrong there. I don't think you need to stand on top of the mountain and call your name out. The less a business is associated with you, the better. The more a business is associated with a brand and an experience, the better that business is. Because these businesses basically have to transcend us. We're going to move along soon, and these businesses have to stay.
What percentage of your business goes into your marketing?
That's a tough one. Initially, it was a very high percent. I would say initially it was probably anything between 10 and 15%. At this stage, it's much, much less. Right now, we barely market. The marketing we do is more internal than external. So we just try to improve the customer experience as marketing. So we spend a lot of money trying to make customers feel better. And hopefully that they will tell your story for you. But that's because of the nature of our business. If I was a web designer, obviously you have to find ways to market. But then again, it's the same principle. If every time you produce a website and you do it in an excellent way, everybody who sees it will come back to you. And I just say, just be the best you can. It's so important. I have something on my wall in my office for people who've been to my office on the back, and it basically says, if you want something you've never had, You've got to be prepared to do something you've never done. You know, and many people don't quite get that. Many people want a lot, but they're not prepared to suffer and hurt themselves to get it. But it's such an important thing is that, you know, being excellent is not always easy, because you've got to do things a lot more. It's like going to school and taking an exam. You know, if your goal is just to pass the exam, then it's fairly easy if you're smart. But if your goal is to be the best, you're going to make some sacrifices. And I think you've got to take business the same way. You've got to make sacrifices.
What's the next big thing for Landmark?
Well,
the group.
The next big thing for the group. So we've got two things. One is to replicate this destination in another city. But in the city we're in now, the next big thing is that we're building a 4-star leisure hotel under the Marriott brand, and the 200 units.
Why 4-star? Why not 5?
Because I don't think 5-star is actually required. And if you understand how the star ratings of hotels are, it's about the services rather than the building, right? So because we're already on the beach and because we're already a mixed-use destination, we have a lot of the services already. So we want to build something that's more of a lifestyle brand. So we're going under the Renaissance brand of Marriott, which is a lifestyle brand. So you know, we have a convention center, so it's a convention hotel, it's a leisure hotel because we've got a beach, and it's also a business hotel because we're in a business community. So that's the next big thing. We're going to also build a residential apartment block with it that's 200 units strong. But the important thing about this residential apartment block, it's meant to target real people like you and I, people who go to work every day and are normal people. We don't want to target people who literally just buy it and stock it and keep it as an investment. We want people to live in it and enjoy the facilities in the ecosystem. So we're trying to bring it in at a price that's truly affordable. And in terms of sizes, it will reflect that.
And you know, part of the thing that gives you comfort in doing business is successive administrations. And so when government is right, you're more comfortable.
Absolutely. You know, I think if the government is right, and the government is business friendly, and the government is infrastructure friendly, and the government is people friendly, then I'm comfortable. If the government doesn't care about people, then I'm very uncomfortable. But yeah, that's just the reality. But I mean, you see it in African nations. The best countries in Africa are the countries where the government have cared. If you look at Nigeria, the best states are the states where the leaders have cared a bit more than the others. The best cities are the cities where the people in those cities have cared. The best communities. So even if you go around Lagos and you look for communities, the best communities are the communities where the people in those communities have cared for the community. It's very important to do your own bit, and it's not all about the government doing their bit. It's also about the private sector doing its bit, and we've got to remain, you know, ethical. We've got to remain strong, but we've got to also have a loud voice. We've got to basically say it and say it and say it again. There are many things I'm happy about with the government, and there are several things I'm unhappy about too. But it's not a fight. It's not a quarrel. It's literally just an understanding and to find a middle ground.
Someone said, what sizes and prices are you foreseeing for normal people, Mr. Onwuanibe? I think we're talking about
we're talking about the apartments. so I mean, obviously the biggest thing behind an apartment, to buy an apartment, is the mortgage, is the finance. So if you have the ability to get finance, yes, then, and at a reasonable rate, then we're talking about studio apartments, 1-bed apartments, 2-bed apartments coming in at multiples of 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 million naira. So, but because of where we are and because of the services that are provided within the ecosystem, you'll find out that the prices are probably 30 to 40% of the prices of comparable apartments on the same road that even have less facilities. So give me a call if you're interested. You wouldn't regret it.
So you can reach out to Mr. Onwuanibe if you're interested. You know, I said to someone, I said this generation is a generation that is thinking deeper than the generations that have, you know, come and gone or that are outgoing. People are more concerned about prosperity. People are concerned about luxury. And you know, that's why you see a lot of things that happen. People are inspired by luxury. What level would you consider yourself a luxury
destination, or just a
No, not at all. Luxury is a figment of one's imagination. I think, I mean, what we consider ourselves, we consider ourselves a destination that provides what people need. You know, I said the very thing that started Landmark. I had a saying: find out where the people are going and get there first. Find out what the people want and give it to them first. So what we are is we're a destination that meets people's needs. It's not about luxury. It's not about opulence. It's about functionality. And what the world is today, if you look at all the businesses, so whether it's Amazon or Microsoft, the businesses that have done well in the world today is because they've sold simplicity. They've sold either simplicity and the ease of getting it. So that's what we're selling. We're selling simplicity. We're selling functionality. We're selling a destination that has a whole series of things in one place that you wouldn't have to go out to get. So I won't call it luxury.
Picture yourself 80, 100 years old in your nice ranch or on the island somewhere, maybe one of the landmarks islands somewhere, and you have your son in front of you. What would be the 5 lessons or message that you would give him? And that would be your my final question for tonight. What would be that lesson you would give to your son or your daughter?
Well, so
if you're going to write an email to your son or your daughter at 83 or 93, what would be the message?
All right, that's better, because I don't think I'll be on the ranch. I'll be somewhere in Oniru, sitting down and looking out, making sure people are happy. But what will it be?
No. Wait, though. So that says something. So I don't expect that at that time you would be in Oniru. Maybe somewhere in another area where you've created another landmark apartment, maybe somewhere on the mainland. Maybe you would have turned the old Makoko axis into a major resort, something that has never been done before, the Yanawuro axis or Ikorodu or the Badagry axis. Think about it. So
could be, but I have an affinity for Oniru, so I think I'll be there anyway. I think that's where it all starts. And yeah, but I like it and I like the community, so I think I'll be there. But who knows the future?
Yeah.
Lesson number 1, I would say, whatever you do it well. That's
whatever you do it well. I'm writing down. Whatever you do it well.
Whatever you do it well. Don't bother doing it if you're not going to do it well. So do it to the best of your ability at all times, every time. Lesson number 2, I would say, always help people to get what they want if you want to get it. Yeah.
Always help people.
Yes, help people to get what they want if you
want to get what they want.
Yeah. So basically, don't just look after yourself, look after others as well. Yes. Number 3 is a slight dimension of number 2, and it's basically it's the one, I suppose, that is pinned in religion, is do to other people what you expect other people to do to you, right? So try to be nice, try to be helpful, try to be kind, right? Because that's how we all want to be thought of. We want to be treated well. We want to be treated with respect. We want to be treated in a kind way. And I think that's extremely important. Number 4, I'll say be ambitious. No glass ceilings.
Be ambitious.
Be ambitious.
No glass ceilings.
No glass ceilings. Choose what you want and strive to get there, because the power of fulfilling dreams is in the dream itself. If you can't dream, you can't get to it. So you need to dream it to get to it. So I would say that's extremely important.
The power of the dream is in the dream itself.
The power of the dream is in the dream itself. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the last number 5 is I would say you need to choose what it is that after you're long gone, and it's going to be written on your tombstone. What is it written? And run your life according to that. So what legacy do you want to leave? And the legacy can't be a Rolls Royce, because you can't drive it into your grave. It can't be a lovely penthouse apartment. It can't be a diamond ring. It can't be a watch. So whatever is you want people to remember you for, spend your life doing it. So if you want people to remember you for being nice, then spend your life being nice. If you want people to remember you for being helpful. If you want people to remember you for changing other people's lives, then do that. But just make sure you pursue what it is. So if you notice, nothing I've said is about money, because you see, the money comes if you do all these things, right? Now, whether you give all the money away, or you spend it on your family, or you spend it on your friends, or you spend it on your nation, it's up to you, right? But the key thing in life is not to pursue money. It's to pursue these virtues, and the money will come.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking to the founder CEO of the Landmark Group and the Landmark Convention Center in Oniru. We can call him the businessman of Oniru, Mr. Paul Onwuanibe, all the way from London, United Kingdom. Thank you so much for your time. We have learned a lot. Someone messaged me and said, this has been my favorite. So let me read it. It says, this has been my best so far. And, I think that it's been very practical and very interesting as well. Thank you so much to all our viewers who has been, watching and commenting. I'm trying to get that message the way she said it. I said, this has been, it is by far my favorite. And that is from someone that I respect so much, a senior person in the government of Lagos State. Thank you so much for the comment. And, I'm seeing a lot of people also who are commenting and all of that. Thank you for the insight that you've shared. We're very grateful. We hope that when we, after COVID, and we decide to take all these conversations we've been having over the last 3 months offline, and we have the big CovInspiration convention in Lagos and other places, that you would also oblige us and share with us some more insight on our offline event after COVID, by the grace of God. Keep all of us still there. Ososon Omolola says, highly insightful, lessons learned are profound. And Stella Wache says, thank you, sir. A lot of comments are coming in. Thank you so much. That says, thank you for this. Samson Ajayi, thank you for this program. Thank you so much. We can only thank Mr. Onwuanibe, who has shared with us his insights and his thoughts. And we're going to go home with this 5-point. Choose what it is you want to be remembered for, what you want your legacy to be. And I think my best quote tonight is, the power of fulfilling dreams is in the dream itself. And of course, for everyone, be ambitious, no glass ceiling, do to others what you expect them to do to you, and always help others to get what they want. Look after others. Whatever you do it well every time. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Any final words?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I want to say, if you give me 30 seconds of your time, the first thing I want to say is I want to thank my team at Landmark, because when this war broke out, and I call this pandemic a war, we created a war team. So the first thing is a shout out to the war team. The second is a shout out to all those in the government that understand what it takes to deal with a situation like this. This is not just a health crisis, it's an economic crisis, and there are a lot of vulnerable people. So shout out to those who have put people before themselves. A shout out to those in the private sector as well, who despite all the challenges that are being faced in what effectively is the toughest time in our lifetime, are still trying to survive and make things happen. And I want to wish everybody, safety. And I want to also say, this COVID thing is real. So be careful. It's not imaginary. So be careful, be observant. It will pass, like all things do. And when it does pass, we're going to have ourselves one hell of a nice party, right? So I look forward, Dayo, to having this CovInspiration thing on Landmark soil. We'll support you in every way and all ways we can. And we'll bring some of the best speakers to come and shout out about what should happen and what is happening. So thank you very much for your show. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. And for those who are watching on Instagram, we can't project you on this screen on the other platforms, but we're very grateful. I want to say a big thank you to all the team members from Landmark, Tega and Yewande. Thank you for making it easy for Mr. Onwuanibe to join us here on the team. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great evening. God bless you real good. Have a great